all and welcome to another episode of the Tetra Travels. This is part 2 to the Qatar World Cup trip. So if you haven't seen the previous video, please go ahead and look back there. A lot of the things I talk about, like hotel access and stuff, on the previous video. This is kind of just more of a vlog of what I did in the second half of the holiday. So yeah, please go and check that out. But I will talk a bit about access in this video as well. I also addressed things like what I felt about the Qatar situation and things like human rights in that video. So again, I won't talk about that here. Please refer to my first video to see what I think about it. Obviously, the next bit of footage is the day after England got knocked out of the World Cup. So I was in a pretty bad mood when I woke up that morning. Had a really good day, and I hope you enjoy the video. After the disappointment of watching England get knocked out of the World Cup, we got up late and left the hotel to go for a lazy day at the beach. We took a trip to a place called Katara beach. As we heard, it was the only accessible beach in the country. We were pleased that there were people at the beach to help me get in and out of the chairs, and yeah, it was fantastic that they actually had some facilities. We weren't sure whether they would or not, so yeah, I was really chuffed to be able to get in the water. Obviously required a bit of help, so I couldn't do it myself, but at least it gave me the opportunity, if you have someone with you, that they can help you get into the sea. I've been to many places in the past where this isn't a possibility, so I was very much pleased. I will say it was bloody freezing. Going from the heat of Doha into the cold Pacific Ocean, yeah, was not so pleasant, but it was definitely worth it and very refreshing. Had a good time at the beach. The chair was good to get into the sea. There's ramps around a lot of the beach, and they had a sort of special reserved seating, like one of the benches reserved for wheelchair users. So yeah, all around pretty good. There is a phone number you need to ring to be able to use the beach chair, which yeah, they didn't answer quite a few times, but yeah, eventually got there. And I'll put the phone numbers in the links below. The beach is situated next to a cultural village called the Katara Cultural Village. We decided to take a stroll around to see what it was about after going to the beach. It was really interesting and had lots of things to see. One of the main ones was the mosque, which we went and visited, but there was also a postal museum that had lots of things to do with the World Cup, like football shirts, old stamps relating to the World Cup, and much more. I found it really fascinating. Saw some shirts of people that were like amazing players like Maradona, Pele, Gascoigne. It was fantastic. As I say, we also went to visit the mosque. It was really interesting, and had a talk with one of the people in there, and they sort of described the Islamic faith to us. And I really learned a lot, actually, things I didn't think I would before. Then after that, we went to a football museum that was also located in the cultural village, that had lots of different football shirts, football memorabilia. It was my kind of museum as a sports fanatic, so yeah, it was really interesting. Connected to that was also sort of pictures and famous moments from various World Cups and paintings. So yeah, I really enjoyed this day. It was so much to see. We kind of just thought we'd do a trip to the beach, and it turned into so much more, so I really loved it. They also had some like really amazing artworks that weren't relating to football, but were just local Qatari artists. I wish I could have bought some of this artwork. It's absolutely beautiful, especially these camels. But alas, I don't think I'd have got it back on the plane. But yeah, really great day, and I'd definitely recommend a trip to the Katara Cultural Village. We then headed home towards the metro. It was pretty late by this point, but we found this amazing fountain display, so we stayed and watched it. It was really spectacular. The metro had really good access, lifts to most of the stations, and pretty much level boarding access. So yeah, a big thumbs up to that. I didn't use it that much because it wasn't very close to our hotel, but when I did use it, I found it really easy and yeah, really useful. So I've got no real complaints here. That day turned out to be a really long day, so we got to bed and it was absolutely shattered. Got back to the hotel and just sort of hit the hay and out like a light I was. We got up pretty early the next day to head to Souk Waqif, which is the big souk market out in Qatar. We decided from day one we were going to have an explorer there. Everyone recommended it to us, so I thought we'd check it out. We got up reasonably early the next day to go to Souk Waqif, which was the biggest souk in Doha. It was a really interesting day out, and loads to see again. It's all sort of shops and market traders, but you could spend the whole day and get lost in there. It's like a real maze. They sell everything from spices to clothes to gold, and really good food. So yeah, definitely recommend a trip to Souk Waqif at some point on your visit. It was actually surprisingly accessible as well. There was ramps in most places, and quite wide pathways. It was very busy, but yeah, you can definitely get around in a chair. After the souk, we headed to the coast where they'd pedestrianised one of the main roads that runs along the coast. They had lots of activities to do down there, music playing, and it was just really nice to sort of take a stroll along the pedestrianised zone. And I think it was a really good initiative for the World Cup. A lot of the locals were saying they really enjoyed having that, so they could go running in the evenings and stuff like that. So I wonder whether it will actually be pedestrianised in the future. So we've taken a trip out to the Corniche and Souk Waqif. It's like really good atmosphere down here. There's loads to see, and yeah, the lights are spectacular. The view of the city is amazing, and yeah, it's just a really sort of party atmosphere for the World Cup. So definitely worth coming down to see it. As we weren't sure about how to get to Stadium Lusail, We had a really lazy day the next day and just decided to focus on the football. So we got up late and just didn't do anything till the evening when we took a taxi ride to get to the stadium to watch the semi-final between Argentina and Croatia. When we went to Lusail, we got an accessible taxi, a minivan type this time, which was far more practical than the big buses. They couldn't drop us up very close to the stadium, so we had to take a bit of a walk because they'd closed a lot of the roads. But when we got to the boulevard, it was really interesting and lots to see. I did my best there to get on Argentinian TV, but failed miserably. I think they spotted I was English pretty quickly. This was actually for the semi-final between Argentina and Croatia, so it was a big atmosphere, amazing amount of Argentinian fans. They were absolutely everywhere, and this was sort of the boulevard in the lead up to the stadium, so it was like, yeah, really amazing. Everyone was buzzing, and then we made our way to the stadium. As with all the stadiums we saw in Qatar, it was absolutely stunning, really well constructed and actually very accessible. There was people to help me out a lot, like people with little trucks that they could drive you around in. So yeah, really good experience from an access point of view. The Argentinian fans were shown to be some of the best of the World Cup. They were absolutely on it. They were really loud and really vocal. I think they knew it was their year, or it could be. Stadium for the semi-final, Croatia-Argentina. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Croatia. I think it's going to be an upset, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. Really excited to see this one. The stadium's beautiful, really good access, loads of toilets, and yeah, unfortunately someone nicked my Croatian flag when I went to the loo, but yeah, I'm still supporting Croatia all the way. For Croatia, 2-0 to Argentina, but Croatia deserve better. I think that's it over now, 3-0, no chance now. They controlled the game, to be fair, but yeah, I feel like I'm bringing a curse on any team I support out here. Again, that was a really late night. I don't think we got back to the hotel until about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, so I was absolutely knackered. But I really wanted to go across the dunes and go do some dune bashing. We really wanted to see a thing called the Inland Sea. So next day I decided we were going to get up early to make sure that we could fit it into the holiday, as it was something that when I read the tour guides I was really keen on doing. When it gets to the football section of this next day, please forgive the completely purple eyes. I was absolutely shattered by this point. I probably had about 3 hours sleep, and yeah, not much the night before that either. So yeah, please forgive the exhaustion on my face. We had an early start to get out to the desert. We went for a bit of dune bashing, but on the way we saw the camels. My mum went for a ride on the camels, which was really fun to see. But they also had falcons and stuff that you could sort of hold. I gave one of the camels a bit of a pat, and yeah, it was really interesting, like something you wouldn't come across in England. As I said before, I got to hold one of the falcons. Falcons are sort of really popular out there with a lot of the sheikhs and important people. They all seem to have their own pet falcon, so it was really sort of amazing to be able to hold one. I was a bit frightened they were going to peck my eye out, but yeah, I got away with it thankfully. And yeah, it was heavier than I thought, so the guy helped me hold it up a little bit. He did let go for a while, but yeah, it was really an amazing experience. We then took off for a ride through the dunes, going up and down steep dunes quite fast. It was really good fun, and yeah, a really amazing experience all round. We went with a trusted company, so it was quite pricey, but they do look after some really good guests. So I think the day before me, Rio Ferdinand had been in the front seat where I was sat. So yeah, really reputable company, and they did give us a really good day out. So I definitely recommend them if you can afford it. I'll put their link in the description. We headed off to what was known as the Inland Sea, which is sort of a sea area that is kind of juts into Qatar. So it's sort of very high in salt content because it's sea water, but almost like a lake that dries up a little bit. Really beautiful spot where we had lunch, and yeah, just sort of sat and chilled. Made a real difference from sort of the chaotic nature of the World Cup to go to somewhere so peaceful. As I was also going to the Morocco-France semi-final, we drove back not to Doha but to the Al Bayt Stadium in the car. The Al Bayt Stadium was really good, but getting to the actual stadium from the car parks, it was never easy. The 2 times I went there, I did find it a bit of a mission, but yeah, once you're actually at the stadium, what a stadium it is, really beautiful. We had a concert outside the stadium, which was a really good way to build up to the semi-final. The Moroccan fans were obviously loving life. They'd never been to a semi-final before, so they were absolutely hyped, and the atmosphere was amazing. I gave a shout out to the Argentinian fans, but in my opinion the Moroccan fans were a level above. They were absolutely loving the whole tournament, and yeah, you couldn't see more passion. So we're here at the second semi-final, Morocco against France at the Al Bayt Stadium. The atmosphere is pretty good. There's I think about 9 to 10 people here seem to be supporting Morocco. So yeah, hopefully they can pull one off against the French. Come on Morocco. I'm going for a 2-1 to France, but my heart really wants Morocco to win this and get to the final. Morocco played really well, unfortunately just couldn't get a goal. Really sad to see them go out, but it is what it is. France, too good in the end. Morocco certainly getting a round of applause from everyone, including the French. Amazing performance this World Cup. We were also lucky enough on the way out to meet 2 legends from Moroccan football history. One of them was the Golden Boot in the African Cup of Nations, and the other one was a member of the World Cup squad that previously went to the World Cup with Morocco. So that was a really cool thing. We didn't know who they were when we got in a lift with them. We couldn't work out why lots of Moroccan fans kept coming up to them and kissing them. So yeah, it was one of those funny coincidences. But yeah, we had a really interesting chat with them. That had been another fantastic day, but as I say, at this point I was absolutely shattered. I don't think we got back to the hotel till about 3 in the morning again. So yeah, we decided that the final day was going to be a pretty relaxed one. We'd take a trip to Education City and just kind of walk around the area and see what it was like, but have a little bit of a lie-in in the morning before we headed off because, yeah, I was gone by this point. I just needed a few hours kip. It was really sad to be on the last day in Qatar, but one of the things I'd wanted to see since being here was Education City, which was a new sort of student area that had been built for the World Cup. Yeah, I wanted to go have a look because I'd heard there were some really interesting things like a beautiful mosque and an amazing library. We had a really nice time going around the botanical gardens. Yeah, just strolling around, looking at the plants, playing with the fountains. It was just a really chilled out day, just to finish us off for the holiday. Some of the area seemed to have not quite been finished, but it was quite an amazing place. The infrastructure that had gone into it also just seemed to be quite a sort of vibrant atmosphere with lots of young people around. I will say one disappointment was the tram network didn't have level access. For a new infrastructure I was surprised, but yeah, it was usable for manual wheelchair users, but I wouldn't say it would be any use for anyone in a power chair, which was somewhat disappointing. Apart from that, the tram network was actually quite good and efficient and clean, so yeah, thumbs up in one way but not in the other. We then went to visit the library, which was absolutely spectacular. One of the most impressive libraries I've ever been to. Had an underground bit with vaults, but also really high up bookshelves everywhere. There was a ramp that went to the top of this, but I would say it was not the easiest. I think it had about 10 different flights, so it was knackering. Finally, we went to visit Education City Mosque, which is an absolutely amazing piece of modern architecture. The space is cavernous but really stunning, and it does feel very kind of spiritual to be in there. We went there, and again, the people inside were really welcoming to us, really wanted to sort of promote their faith without being too pushy. And yeah, it was really sort of interesting to talk to them about the space, but also the religion. I would definitely recommend visiting some mosques while you're there, because it really gives you a new perspective on the Islamic faith. As I say, the architecture was really fascinating. These two spikes really stood out as a main feature, and yeah, I just found it a really beautiful place to be. It really felt like a fitting place to sort of finish the holiday, and yeah, a holiday I really loved, and also found like far more interesting than I thought it might be outside of the World Cup. As we left the room for the final time from our hotel, I realised all the teams that I'd supported had actually lost at the World Cup, and I looked back and I wondered whether it's because we'd been given room 101 from the very beginning. We took the BA flight back from Qatar. It was a really good flight. Everything went smoothly. The only thing I would say was that when I got back to Heathrow, I was really disappointed that the passenger assist were being really funny with me about being sat by the window. Now, I've flown many times. I've always been sat by the window, and they've always lifted me into my chair from there. For some reason, they were saying, oh, that the rules wouldn't allow them to lift me across two seats, and I had to be sat next to the aisle, which is completely rubbish, because if you're a disabled person and you sit by the aisle and you can't move, everyone has to climb over you to get to the toilet. That's alright if you've got friends like sat next to you, but if you're not, that's really, I think, not correct. And yeah, it's not dignified either for the other passenger or yourself. So that was really disappointing that they were being funny with me. And I don't think it was rules. I think they were making it up on the spot, as I've never heard this before, and I've looked it up and I can't see anything about it. So that was a pretty disappointing way to end the travelling. Anyway, that'll be it for this video and yeah, the Qatar like videos. I really loved this trip. It was absolutely sort of once in a lifetime kind of thing to go to a World Cup, but also just to experience the culture and everything in Qatar. Yeah, I'm really pleased I went. I was a bit unsure about whether to go in the first place, but it was definitely worth it, and I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed the video, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you did so. I hope to see you soon. Next week, I'm hoping to do a video on the England-Scotland Six Nations fixture, so I'll hopefully see you then. And yeah, goodbye.